I'm recording. Hi everyone, Patricia Worby, Alchemy Therapies here, and thank you for joining us again for our series of conversations with practitioners. And today I'm absolutely delighted to introduce my friend and colleague, Michelle Hopkins,
Hi.
who describes herself as a holistic therapist, because when I asked her what she did, the list was so long of all the tools in her toolbox that it really doesn't have a description. And I know, Michelle, that you work with individuals to help them, well, through all manner of problems, don't you? How would you say your personal experience of life has sort of brought you to this point? How does it inform what you do?
Well, before I started on my learning journey, my plan when I left the Air Force was to just become a massage therapist, and I enjoy massage, and that was it. But as my tools have increased, and I realised that massage wasn't giving me any long-term results. And then when I added reflexology to my toolkit, I was getting much longer results, but realized it wasn't just working on the one aspect, so it was more of a holistic. So that's when I decided I would branch out and add tools to my toolkit, because I wasn't seeing the results I wanted. I wasn't seeing people having a few treatments and then not coming back to me for a long period. They were constantly coming back and it was the same issues. So I then started to want to learn more and help them basically not come back to see me.
Putting yourself out of a job.
Yeah, well, the word gets around and other people come, but I couldn't see them moving, so I then had to broaden. And one of the things that I did use to broaden in myself and my clients was coming across the chrysalis effect and realizing that you have to look at all aspects. And that's when I started to add that into my sort of questionnaire and what's going on for you, trying to look behind what they were saying.
I think that's really vital. It's a very interesting point that you've raised there, that many people who are doing physical or manual therapies, and I'm not casting aspersions, but chiropractors, physios and so on, kind of expect you to keep coming, and it's part of their business model.
Yes.
That you get fixed for a week or two and then you have to come back.
Yeah.
Which I think,
what's behind this? Why are you your back going out all the time? So I've got that with my dogs at the moment. This is Theo sat on my lap having a cuddle, but I've got a dog at the moment who I'm constantly taking to see the chiropractor. I'm starting to learn chiropractic because I can't keep going once a fortnight, and I'm taking him to see the vet once a fortnight, and I'm like, what's behind this? What's the cause? So it's I'm doing that with my clients. What's the cause? What's behind this? Why are you keep coming back to me?
And do you find a lot of that is to do with the mind as well as the body? Because that's
100%. So when I got diagnosed with chronic fatigue back in 2010, everyone was talking about it being yuppie flu and it was all in your mind. And I was like, absolutely, I'm going through this. This is not in my mind. And the more I'm studying about the gut-brain connection, I'm like, absolutely, 100%. It's down to the mind, and it's down to stress. Stress in all aspects of the word, and that's what I find is if I can reduce the stress in my client's body and their mind, I get much better results. So for instance, I'll have a client turn up and they've had a really bad day at work, and I go, there is absolutely no point in me touching this person, because unless I can reduce their stress, they are going to get no benefit, and I might as well throw the money down the drain. So I try and go, right, what is the one thing that's causing you problems, and then maybe we'll do 5 minutes of EFT to reduce that stress level to a manageable point so that I can do my work. Otherwise it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, we should just say EFT is emotional freedom technique, or the tapping, which I use. It's brilliant.
I'm not a qualified practitioner, but I use it myself. And I know from personal experience that if I'm stressed and off the scale, I can within a few minutes get my stress levels down. So I say to them, I'm not a practitioner, but I use this on myself, and I don't think you're going to get the best out of this treatment. Would you like to try this? And they go, yeah, I would like to try this. And we get them from being a 10 out of 10 stress to maybe a 4 or a 5. And I go, right, try this again when you get home, but you're de-stressed enough that we can, get the treatment and it'll work.
Yeah. And so you were talking before we started recording about people that you've worked with who have come to you for all manner of different problems, and one of them being infertility, and how you've managed to help them conceive. And so stress is such a big component there, isn't it? Preventing conception.
It's massive. So I had a client who came to me with all she came to me was, I want to get pregnant. And I gave her the caveat, look, I'm a reflexologist, but I'm not qualified in, babies. But what I can do is I can help reduce the stress in your mind and your body by doing the treatment. And what we ended up doing was we'd do some reflexology, and then we'd do some Reiki afterwards to calm her, and ended up towards when I understood her a little bit more, we ended up using some auricular acupuncture, which is just acupuncture worked on just the ear points. And I think it was a combination of looking at her diet, looking at where her stress levels were, and making tweaks in drinking more water, making changes to her diet, that the whole thing came together. And within 6 treatments, she told me that she was pregnant and she was due a baby on Boxing Day.
Fabulous. Just shows you, doesn't it? I think people misunderstand what stress is and how it works. I think we tend to think of stress as just something that happens as part of daily life, which it can be, of course. It can be, job situation or financial stress or whatever. But there are other stresses that are more long-term and more insidious. I think the sort of conflict stresses within us may be about past events that haven't been resolved, difficulties in relation to ourselves and how we perceive ourselves as bad or wrong or shameful in some way. I mean, is that your experience working with people?
I mean, I had that experience with my mum. She was constantly and saying out loud negative things about herself. So I said, right, Mum, stop. You need to go and watch this segment of the What the Bleep Do We Know Anyway, which is a film.
Yes.
The aspect of the film that I got her to watch was the bit where the photographer, who's the main character, is just being really negative about herself. And she comes across Dr. Emoto and the significance of water and energy in water. So I just got her to watch that section of the movie, and she went, oh, I get it now. I get it. The things I'm saying to myself, the negative things, are going in and they're affecting me and my stress. And I was like, yes. So
it's a great movie. I'll see if I can include the link actually in the description, because it was one of the first movies I ever saw actually that really discussed this mind-body connection in an intelligent and scientific way. I'd never seen that before. I had seen many people, meditators and so on, talking about, the spiritual side of life, but to actually describe how it works with peptides, because I'm a biochemist by training, and I was like, oh, chemical peptides, where did I not, I didn't learn about that. And so to understand that what we think changes our physiological state, it changes our body as well, is such it's a mind-blowing concept, which we now accept as true, and we understand this. And so a big part of what you do, I imagine, when people come to you, same with me, is to understand the whole person. So everything that's happening.
So I had a client that would come to me, and whenever I started reflexology, or I said a nice word to her, a complimentary word, she'd start to cry. And eventually, over time, of a little bit more Reiki and a bit more care and digging down, I said, you do know that a lot of your stress is caused by the loss of your parents, and I don't think that you've emotionally or been able to heal from it. So I suggested a good counsellor, and I said, I really do think this will help you. I know you're not ready now. Excuse me. I know you're not ready now, but I think that it will help you in the long term to move forward. And she's now a Reiki practitioner, and she doesn't need to see me anymore.
Yeah. So
Great.
that's the sign of success, isn't it? When you can sign a person off, I mean, not necessarily forever, but certainly from having to revisit and revisit and revisit.
Yeah.
And that's such an important point. You know, I say to people, you come and see me for a minimum of 6 and the maximum is up to you. But
Yes.
you do not tie yourself in for weekly sessions for the next X number of years, you know, because that is a sign it isn't working. To some degree, it's you know, and I find that a little bit with talk therapy as well, that you can end up going round and round and round the same things, because you're not actually addressing the core issues, which are emotional.
Yes.
You just end up talking them through. And A-type people like us, who tend to live in our heads anyway, are very good at talking. We can
Really,
talk.
and you could just go around the houses.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's off track. I'm also dyslexic, so as ideas form, I've just been off.
Yes. Yeah.
But being part of the military community, we have like a Facebook page, and someone posted on there, I've got chronic fatigue, has anybody else?
Mm.
And it was phenomenal, the amount of people
Yeah.
that said, I have, and I've got fibromyalgia. Yes, me too. I've got chronic fatigue. And the numbers were phenomenal compared to how many people were on there.
Mm.
So I posted a question. I said, I know this probably doesn't seem very relevant, but for those of you that have got chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, can you advise me what your ACE score is? What does it stand for?
Adverse childhood experience. Yeah.
Thank you. And I said, what are your scores? And I went out there and said, mine's 4. What's yours? And not many people did it, but of all of those that did it, a friend of mine came back with 6, another person came back with 7, and another person came back with 9. And I went, okay, I understand her a lot more now.
Okay. I should just tell the listeners, if they haven't come across this, adverse childhood experience is a description of the things that happen to you in childhood that are inescapable and overwhelming, and they have very specific effects on the developing brain, to actually limit your health span. So they don't just limit your life, they limit what you are able to achieve in life, and they tend to predict very, very classically the kinds of diseases you get. And CFSME, fibro, are the kind of classic overachieving, high A-type, but also traumatized pattern, which is where you end up after you've sort of tried to push through. And usually, I guess that's why you go into the military, is to kind of maybe escape your past, but also to kind of achieve something, to do something valuable.
It was probably to give structure.
Structure, right.
Structure and safety.
Structure and safety, yeah. Okay, so very important. Sorry, I missed that.
But I didn't realise that at the time.
No, of course. You go into it for all sorts of other reasons which you've created in your head.
Absolutely. Yeah, my dad was in the military, my grandfather was in the military, my brothers were in the air cadets. I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Found that I was really good at it, and went, well, I can do this. And not only did I go into the military, but I went in as a commissioned officer, which I really didn't have the qualifications or the rest of it to go. But my mind said, well, I'm actually quite good at this, I'll do it. And not realising the hurdles that I had in front of me, but got through them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, when we set our minds to it, we're very determined. I know, because I'm the same. I decided I was going to save the world in some way by inventing the cure for cancer or something like that. I never got to that, but I went into science, even though there was hardly any women going into that area, and nobody in my family had ever done it. So it was very out there. Yeah. And I think for a while we can manage it and we handle it, but there is a payback, isn't there, at some point in your life? And I believe you've had a diagnosis at some point of PTSD.
Yes, 2000. So I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue in 2010, and that followed having time in Iraq, which was, as you could imagine, quite stressful. 300 missiles aimed at my base where I was. Loss and injury of friends. So that was quite stressful. And then I came back from that and ended up being bullied in the military for about 2 years. But that wasn't the main issue. It was my team was being bullied. And I think that's where my brain started to get this connection with stress, because of my team. I had quite a few signed off sick. I had one of my team had bowel cancer diagnosed with while we were all going under this stress, and another one with a bowel disorder linked with stress, and quite a few mental breakdowns. So after that time, I then decided I wanted to snowboard for the Royal Air Force, got selected for the team, was out there for 4 weeks, got the most horrendous illness, pushed through anyway, because I was at the championships and I was competing against the Army and the Navy. And after that, my body went, enough, stop, absolutely stop. And trying to do night shifts on top of all of that, my body said, stop. So, and that was chronic fatigue, and eventually got the message after some time.
It's a hard one to hear, because we are wired to see our worth as about achievement, aren't we? And to be physically stopped from doing something because you literally can't get your head up off the pillow, you can't walk, is really tough for us. But it is the only way the body can really interrupt this patterning that's going on, that is saying, I've got to push and push and push, which your adrenals can't cope with. And here again, the mind and the body are very linked, because that kind of mindset is very difficult for the body, because it's going against our biology in some ways. And here, I am going to say that women are far outnumber men in CFS-ME and fibro, I mean, massively. And I think the big factor is the adrenal, the lack of testosterone, and therefore the much greater reliance on adrenaline, which is exhausting, literally, over time. And so your body eventually collapses. So your experience...
It's great when people have these stop and they listen, and then they start to learn and grow. And actually, we know through the community of the Chrysalis effect that the people's lives have changed and just flown after they've gone, okay, I need to do something that nourishes me. I need to do something that helps me.
It's a big mindset shift from what you feel you ought to be doing,
or what you've told you should be doing.
Exactly, because somebody thought it was a good idea, or you grew up with that. For me, it was, I got to be like my dad. He was quite brainy, he was an engineer. It was like, well, I've got to follow that. But for you, the military link was just so huge, wasn't it? So how then did you get from being traumatized from Iraq and ill to being a holistic therapist? What was the big sort of aha moment for you, and how did you do it?
The big aha was, so I'd gone from I'd been to the Falkland Islands, not during the Falklands War, but I'd spent 4 months in the Falkland Islands. And from the Falkland Islands, I said to my career manager, I'm up for anything, give me a real big challenge. And he went, how about helicopters in Northern Ireland? And I was fantastic. I've always wanted to work with helicopters. I applied to the Air Force as a pilot, but unfortunately when I applied, the Eurofighter came in, so my eyesight was okay before, but the Eurofighter tightened the rules. So they'd put me through scholarships, had given me flying lessons, I'd got my flying license, and I was adamant I was going to be a pilot. And with the eyesight change, that knocked it out. So I was then supposed to be an air traffic controller, but didn't know I was dyslexic. And I kept on joining the dots on screen, which didn't work very well.
Okay. Interesting.
So I'm gone off track. So sorry, yes, I'm in the Falkland Islands saying I really want a good job. So he said, what about this really challenging job? And I said, fantastic. And then a week later, he said, I've got an even more challenging job for you. How about going onto an aircraft carrier, joining the Navy? And I spoke to friends and they went, it's a challenge, but it's not a full career. It's not a full posting. It's about a year, maybe. And I was like, that would be good. So I then joined HMS Invincible in Norfolk, Virginia for what happened then to be a 2-year tour. So it was mentally and physically exhausting. So we were doing 12, 14, 16-hour days, and making sure that the ship was in the right place so that the aircraft could make sure that there was something to land on in the middle of the sea. An amazing job, an amazing experience, but mentally draining. The amount of food I ate was phenomenal, but I gained no weight while on the ship.
You're under a lot of stress.
Lots and lots of stress, and but it was a phenomenal experience. So after that, I said to my career manager, just like to take my foot off the pedal just a little bit, and I'd like a relaxing tour. So I ended up going from HMS Invincible to RAF St Morgan in Cornwall, right outside Newquay, and went, I need to take a break because I can't continue like this. And fortuitously, 2 months after arriving, there was a charity event, and it was trying to raise money for, I think, Click. And there was this one bid lot, if you like, at the end of the evening, and I thought, I feel really antisociable. I've not bid for anything because it was like meals for two, and I was on my own then. And then this bid came up for a Reiki healing session, and you could hear around the room everyone saying, Reiki healing, what's that? Yeah. And I went, I don't know what it is, but I have to have some of it because I am in pieces. And I stuck my hand up and I won it, and I went to see her, and I was in utter agony with lower back pain, and I got off the table and went, that's amazing. I had no back pain after the Reiki, and I went, I want to learn this. And as so happened, she was just about to start a course at St Austell College, and I learned Reiki, and that was the thing that went, this is amazing. So I had this duality of being in the Air Force but putting my toe into the world, and went, actually, when I leave, I'd really like to do this. I don't know what I want to do this. A long, convoluted story, but that's how I ended up learning about holistic and health and mind and body and spirit.
We mustn't forget that we are spiritual beings in the fullest sense of the word, and I think a lot of us have lost contact with that. You know, we're so divorced from the world, from nature and the seasons and the cycles and our place on this planet, and I don't want to go into a rant, but I think we've lost our way, and a lot of us are very focused on consumer things, you know, like making us feel good means buying a new iPhone, or you know, competing to look the best on Facebook or Instagram or something, and these have no meaning whatsoever. They are mere ephemeral things that pass. Real meaning is elusive, I think, in our current living situation, and we need to find more of it. And it's through community, it's through connection, it's through shared experience. And I think for us who are holistic therapists, I think that's maybe it feels like coming back to a truer sense of ourselves. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. I was devoured of feelings when I was in the military. I was able to just keep everything at a distance, and then everything came crashing in. And when you were talking there, it reminds me, I've just finished listening to The 3-Day Effect. It's a book on Audible, and it's where they brought science and nature together. They took people, veterans actually with PTSD, into the wild for 3 solid days, and they measured their stress levels and their feeling and their cognition before and after, and it's quite phenomenal.
The changes. So I mean, I feel as a therapist myself, I'm part of that reconnection. When I sit with someone, I'm reminding them of who they really are, outside of their experience, what they've become through their story. I'm reminding them.
What they've been told as well. You know, we're brainwashed with television and adverts, and the images that we're seeing. We're told that to attain happiness, and that is what we need to do. So I agree. And the more stressful life becomes, the more we need something, and so we tend to gather towards those things that make us feel temporarily better. But my approach would be to suggest to people, you know, like you, to explore other avenues, like find out what healing really means. Reiki is such a powerful thing, and it's such an extraordinary thing that sits outside the paradigm of current science, because it says, how can somebody, just by laying their hands over or on you, change your physiology? How's that possible? It's only possible when you understand that we're biophysical beings. And quantum physics tells us we can affect things outside of direct contact or chemical contact. So, you know,
I would say to people, keep an open mind, even if you're very left brain, kind of that can't work, which is what I was like, no doubt what you were like.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
after having a treatment, I was like, that is incredible.
How does that work? Yeah, that's what happened to me with Chinese acupuncture. I had acupuncture and herbs, and I was very negative when I went in. I was like, this won't work. It's a load of bunkum. But I was so desperate. That's the reason I went, because I had a friend who said, what have you got to lose? And she was right, because I'd done the medical route, and then came out, and 3 days later had relief for the first time in probably 2.5 years, and thought, I need to look into this.
Yeah.
Because something has shifted in me, and I didn't even believe in it. So it wasn't placebo in my case.
I mean, it's a bit like Reiki. You were saying, how weird is it that you can use it for the animals and myself, and but how strange is it that I can affect other people from a distance, and that's even more mind blowing. So I can do distant healing if I know someone, connect with someone. I can send energy over the airways. That's mind blowing as well. But it works. I mean, when I was studying, so after I finished my level 1, lots of people that I was on the course with went, right, I'm going to do level 2, and I was like, I don't think I've got a grip of this yet. I don't think I have. And people would say, I'm feeling heat, I'm feeling this, and I felt nothing. But it wasn't until like 5 years later that it clicked that I wasn't actually in my own body, so I wouldn't be able to feel anything.
You weren't embodied. Yeah.
I was embodied. And then when I started to, and I remember some friends of mine in Edale, and I said, right, I'm going to send you energy. And I didn't believe this myself. And I was like, right, I'm going to send you energy at this time, and I'll phone you up afterwards. And I could imagine being in his lounge, and I put my hands on his shoulder, and he said, I did not believe it, but I felt a heat in my shoulder at the time that you were sending it. And I was like, wow, this really does work.
Yeah. I think the problem is science hasn't, certainly mainstream science and medicine hasn't caught up with the true nature of reality, as I've alluded to already, the quantum nature of the world, and how everything is energy, and you can distance heal, because you can affect energy just by intention. So it is an amazing thing, and it does seem to have a profound effect. And I just applaud everything that you're doing, because it's amazing, and to have come from where you've been and to have found this new way of living is just brilliant. So can I ask you how if people want to contact you, what's the best method if they want to come and see you?
I think probably the best bet is I'll give you my contact details, and you can add it as a link, because lots of people have told me, get on Facebook, get a website, get this, and I found organically by people saying, recommending and giving my details out, is that people have come to me.
Well, that's great. And I will include I want to include a little bit about the ACE score, because anybody can do their ACE score. It's available online, and I'll put a link to that as well, because I think people should understand that this is one of the most important pieces of information about yourself, probably next to your heart rate variability. That knowing what happened to you in childhood is not necessarily over, and it carries on, kind of molding your mind and body in certain scripted ways. And I'll also I might include some other links as well, which have come up. What the Bleep Do We Know was a fantastic film, and blew my mind from the moment I started watching it. It was like, oh my God, I have found the holy grail of everything I've started to think about the world. And it was all put together in one film, and so people should know about that film as the beginning of a new way of looking at the world. So
The Secret led me to What the Bleep.
Secret is another one. I found that one less, perhaps a little bit more about money. It was not as deep for me, that one, but it did have a lot of really good information in, and there have been others since as well to follow that. So folks, you can change your life, you can heal. Healing is an ongoing process. It's not a destination. You get there over consistent effort and belief, and working with fabulous people like Michelle here. And so thank you very much for your time and your energy, and maybe we should do another one. It'd be lovely to talk again. So
I'm sure there's other subjects we can cover.
Right.
And it's been really interesting talking to you. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Bye for now, everyone.